Hello, this is Jonas from Grizzly Games, and today we'll have a look at how we made our game Islanders. From start to finish. It's a pretty interesting process and I want to share with you what I've learned, because that's what this channel is about, sharing what I've learned in game development. So a couple of quick facts. I made this game as a part of my bachelor program at HTW Berlin. Big shout out to my awesome teammates and the professors that helped us out in the process. We made the game within 4 months and our team consists of 3 people. So that's already one thing that I've learned, is that you can really make a pretty epic game in a pretty short amount of time. I kind of have the direct comparison now between making games alone and making games in a team, and I've really gotta say, making games in a team is so much faster, so much more streamlined. If you can, work on a team. If possible, work with a good team that actually carries you. Actually, I definitely feel like I got carried a little bit by my team. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? This is one of the very early prototypes. You can see here that you can only place these buildings on certain slots. They have price points attached to them. It's a very different game. In case you do not know how the game works right now, I've made plenty of videos about that, on how the game looks now, how it is played. So if you're not up to speed yet, then check out one of those gameplay general information videos first, because this video is not that. This video is the process of making this game. And you can see here, this is actually real time, so I have to wait for my resources to come in, I have to collect them. But other than that, we can already see that some of the mechanics are quite similar. This house here gets plus 0.8 gold for every nearby house. And I still remember one of the base ideas of this prototype was if a flood come in or meteors dropping down from the top that basically destroy your city. But we quickly figured out that building a city and then having it destroyed is not exactly the most fun game loop, so we kinda didn't do that. I think we did one prototyping week where we tried out a bunch of different game ideas. This is a completely different one. In this one you have to assign tasks to people here, and then you can do that with Pete, and depending on what happens on that mission you get these new resources here. It's a high score game as well. You basically try to travel as far as possible, manage all of these stats here. We tried that, it was interesting for a while. And then we got rid of it. That's definitely one thing I've learned from this project as well, that just a lot of prototyping is super useful. If you wanna find a really good game idea, then you have to try multiple game ideas. I already made a video about coming up with game ideas. Actually, coming up with game ideas is quite simple. Coming up with a really good game idea is obviously not quite as simple. Oh yeah. In this prototype you just click on stuff and then sometimes stuff happens. I think there's a way to move, but I forgot how. Oh, and here we have a visual prototype from Friedemann that already looks surprisingly quite a lot like Islanders looks now. I think you cannot really do anything here. It's just a visual prototype, but definitely an interesting one. Okay, here we have the little bit of a darker atmosphere. Also, instead of Islanders, we oopsie doopsie almost made this rafting game. With these wonderful water physics. The main reason why we didn't go any further with this is because we did not find a way to make the water look good. I think it's just an unlit shader at this point. Yeah, we didn't manage to make decent water. That was basically the main problem. Oh, see, and here we can already see that at the beginning we definitely wanted Islanders to be a 2D game. In this prototype you can drag some buildings in here. Not really a lot of gameplay here, but just building something beautiful. Already quite fun. And this gotta be one of the first times where we tried making Islanders a 3D game. And I think once we saw this, we were all pretty convinced that this is the way to go. I think Paul was the one who suggested to turn this into a 3D game, and I've gotta say, good call, good call. Definitely looks quite a bit better than 2D. But we did not just explore the visuals, we also explored the gameplay quite a bit. And what I have here in my hand is basically a lumberjack. These green squares here are trees. So the more trees are near this lumberjack, the more income I have. So at the moment I get 5 income from this lumberjack. If I place a couple more lumberjacks, my income will go up. So this was still a real-time prototype. As you might know, the final version of Islanders is not real-time, it's turn-based. But this prototype really showed us that this kind of gameplay can work. Optimizing the placement of all of these buildings is already quite fun. This is the workshop. It wants to be close to other lumberjacks, but not close to other workshops. So in the final game, this is basically the sawmill. So as you can see here, it's a very iterative process. We're trying a lot of different things. And another main takeaway I took from this project is that the main goal is really to simplify your game as much as possible. If you can find a way to make your game simpler without making it less fun, then you should absolutely go for it, and you should always be looking for those opportunities. Oftentimes making your game easier and simpler actually makes your game better, and I think that happened to us quite a bit during the prototyping process. There's really no good reason to make this a real-time game, and making it turn-based made a lot of things a lot simpler. Here, for example, in this build we have quests. Earn 750 points with workshops, and once that quest is complete you unlock a new building. It's a cool system, but it's too complicated. Also, we didn't want to make a stressful game, and making it time-based always adds a little bit of a stress factor, adds a little bit of downtime. Turning Islanders into a turn-based game is, I think, what really brought the pacing to a next level, because you can really play at your own pace. You don't have to wait for any stupid income numbers or money numbers to go up. Plus, it also helps not to make this economy spiral out of control in the late game. Oh, seems like we have another 3D prototype here. You can actually open the build menu with space. Oh, I remember that prototype. In this one you can stack these buildings on top of each other, which is insanely satisfying and fun. So you might still wonder, why the hell did we build so many prototypes? And the answer is we wanted to see if this works. At the beginning, when you start out making a game, creating a bunch of these really quick prototypes doesn't cost a lot of time, and it really helps you to get a feel for what you're creating and whether what you want to create actually works. You don't want to invest 4 months into something and then realize that it's not really all that fun. So these prototypes were definitely a way for us to figure out if this works, both in terms of gameplay as well as in terms of visuals. And yeah, eventually we came to the conclusion that this will probably work, and then you can keep working on it. Keep in mind that all of these prototypes are very quick prototypes. We spent 1 or 2 days on every single one of them max, and then of course at some point you've just got to start building the game and then go from there, and then still keep iterating on that. You cannot start from scratch every single time and build up new prototype every single time you test something, but when you start out you can obviously do that, and it doesn't hurt to do that, apparently. But yeah, nice. I also wanted to have some stackable buildings in Islanders for a long time. I guess eventually we scrapped that idea. I'm not exactly sure why, because I still think that's a pretty fun concept. See, this is the first turn-based prototype of Islanders, which takes a lot of the stress away. Here you can see your coins, here we can see the buildings we can place. Now if you put that here, we get 3 points, because there are 5 trees, and the lumberjack itself costs 2 points. And then in order to get more buildings, we have to click on next day, which costs 1 coin. This gets more and more expensive, which eventually forces the game to an end. So as you can see, this is still quite a bit more confusing than the current version of the game. We have coins here, we have weird prices here, we have price values attached to the buildings, and eventually we managed to get rid of all of that, which is awesome. Here you can already see, like, these lumberjacks get minus points from other lumberjacks, so you don't just place them all next to each other. This is already feeling quite a bit like Islanders, except for the fact that it's more complicated and dumb. Now we have to pay 7 coins to move on to the next day. Why the hell is that? Oh yeah, right, these windmills actually get more points the higher up you place them in this prototype, which is intuitive, but eventually we decided to scrap that as well, just to simplify our rules further. Here's one of the first visual prototypes in 3D, and this was pretty early on into the process, still definitely within the first month. Here we can see the next iteration with a couple of buildings. I remember one of the main challenges we struggled with is that islands have to look good no matter how many buildings are placed on them. Oftentimes in builder games, placing buildings makes the landscape look uglier, dirtier. And that was definitely not what we wanted to happen. We still wanted the island to look pretty and nice after you build a city. That's why in this prototype we have different steps. See, the island looks pretty okay without any buildings. With a couple of buildings looks good. And then with a lot of buildings it still has to look good. I'm pretty surprised by how similar a lot of these buildings look to how they look now. That's pretty crazy. The progress bar was at the top here, not that circle in the bottom left corner. Yeah, that looks pretty awesome. By the way, this is not a playable prototype whatsoever, right? This is just a mock-up. There's nothing playable about this. You can just click through different states of the island. But really, this sort of stuff I think was absolutely phenomenal for vision keeping, which is a big deal when making a game together, that every member of the team sort of has the same vision for what you're about to create. And I think this definitely helped us quite a bit to keep that in check. If you see something like this, then I think all team members will have a pretty clear vision of what this game is supposed to be. If I remember correctly, I think Friedemann was playing around with these mock-ups while Paul and me got started with the code structure for the main project. Already looks a lot like Islanders. Oh, you can even tilt the camera up and down. Really feels like the game made a big jump here, but if you think about it, it really didn't, right? All of these mechanics were here before. We already had some awesome visual prototypes before that, so the jump from whatever we had before to this is not really as big as it looks like. And look at these cute little models. That's what happens when I make them and not an artist. Then the sawmill looks like this, like... What the hell is that sawmill? Is this island already randomly generated? I definitely don't think so, right? If we restart, yeah, it's the exact same island every single time. And that's a thing, I guess, before you can randomly generate a level, maybe you should build a couple of levels by hand, so you know what makes for a good level. Also, as you can see here in this prototype, you cannot decide between different buildings, you just get random buildings in here. You've gotta build whatever you get. Already quite a couple of buildings. Crazy. Fun fact, I cannot move the camera. We just wanted it to be this rotational camera movement. Oh yeah, but I really like this Tetrising. Also, look at the mansions. They have quite different shapes, and also they don't want to be next to houses. Let's hit play. Oh, it already has a tutorial. Nice. Oh, and we can already pick buildings. But we still can't move the camera. Well, that's a shame. Oh yeah, and we had this grave right here. This little T-shaped thingy, which is basically the exact opposite of the statue. You can see here every building gets a bonus from having the statue within its range. But also every building gets minus points for having this grave within its range. And that felt like a frustrating mechanic, so we got rid of it. Statue, on the other hand, felt like a rewarding mechanic, so we kept it. And these statues still exist in Islanders till this day. Nobody built in this area, and this was basically just wasted space because nobody wanted to build here. Not a good mechanic, got cut from the game. Oh, tutorial got expanded a little bit. I wonder if these are already randomly generated. Oh well, crazy, yes they are. What the hell is with that menu? Why did we keep that for so long? The sand pit is already in the game. Doesn't have an icon yet. Oh, and it looks like a weird buried square. Oh, we even have some depth of field here. We even have the new island button down here already. We can already cheat by pressing enter. Oh yeah, hell yeah. So, what happens when we press that button? Oh, let's go to the next island. Oh, which looks quite a bit different, but still has the grave on it. Interesting. Let's quit this prototype. Oh, here the starting islands already look a lot more familiar when we didn't have these pluses yet. So whenever this circle here fills up, you have to pick buildings right away and your gameplay gets interrupted with fields. Pretty dumb, which is why we decided to add those pluses there later on, so you can decide yourself when you want to choose a new building. I was really getting interrupted by weird pop-ups while placing buildings. It's pretty annoying. See, if I just place buildings here, and then I wanted to keep placing stuff, but just a weird pop-up appears out of nowhere. No, no, no. That is no fun. Oh my god, this plateau was something we discussed a lot. whether we want it in the game or not. Final decision was obviously yes, because it's an epic building that allows you to build something on top of it. Isn't that fantastic? Oh, but you can't build it on water yet. We even had these wall platforms. I'm really surprised sometimes. Oh, and I can see a bug that that we struggled with quite a bit. These little things you see here are trees that are stuck in the ground. By now, the game's already on Steam. It's not out yet, but I can already play it on Steam, which is epic. Look at that, it's already in my library. Let's hit play. Colors are even brighter, more saturated. We implemented all of these beautiful, snappy settings. And here, these starting islands look pretty identical. Everything's just a little more polished out, looks a little nicer. We have little birds flying through the screen, little waves in the background, some clouds, and all of that just makes it look even better. In the last couple of days we implemented small stuff like this. Whenever you hover over these trees, they are disabled. That was not the case in earlier versions. Some particles and a little bit of screen shake whenever you place something. A lot of teeny tiny little details, a lot of experimenting, a lot of prototypes. Pretty fun workflow, and also honestly a pretty fast workflow. As I said, 4 months is not a lot. One of the things that obviously helped us out quite a lot is that we managed to simplify our game idea a lot in terms of code. This is a very simple game. There's not a lot of complex stuff going on here at all. Like literally the gameplay is just you place stuff and you get points for certain stuff that is within range. It's a very simple idea that for some reason turned out to be pretty fun, and that's why we managed to create this in such a short amount of time. By the way, this is also pretty much the philosophy Friedemann and Paul used in their last project, Superflight, which is also a super simple game. But simple doesn't mean boring. You can make something that is super simple but still looks nice and plays well. I don't want to be too much like, yeah, we did such a good job. I know how it's done. Yeah. As I've said, I don't think that at all. I think I got definitely carried in this project. I managed to do some useful stuff in terms of gameplay for this game. But in a lot of other areas I was just lucky to have an awesome team. And we don't know if it works out yet, okay? Maybe nobody will be interested in this game, maybe nobody will play it, and that's fine as well. What matters for now is that I'm really happy with the game, that I'm kind of proud of what we made here. Whether other people think so as well is still to be seen. This has just a lot of polish. We just went for something super simple and polished the crap out of it. If you have any more questions of how we made this game, please let me know in the comments. This was not the last video I made about islanders, for example. I'll make some more stuff about the island generator. That seems to be something a lot of you are interested in, so we'll do something on that. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.